About 20 years ago, partly for practical reasons connected with parental responsibilities and the need to work for a living, but also, like many no doubt, because I felt that the notion of the hero artist in their studio, the 1950s model for example, was naff and not appropriate to the times we are in, I took the decision to use the world about me and everyday experiences and incorporate those into my practice. A second aspect of activity I embraced was the old interest in appropriation, in other words, taking, rather than making anything, and representing selected findings to the world. There is nothing particularly radical in this. Marcel Duchamp, or Baroness Ulcer von Freytag-Loringhoven's famous action took place over 100 years ago, and Douglas Hubler made the relevant points about there being enough stuff in the world already, half a century ago. My main responsibilities at University of Sussex, UK, where I am currently employed, relate to photography, and that too I see, essentially as appropriation, or put more honestly, stealing. Ansel Adams did not create the dramatic, and eerily empty, landscapes he was famous for having captured. Photography is technically easy, and so it is meant to be. Nowadays it involves pressing a button, if even that. I sympathize, and agree in fact, with the idea that photography steals the subject's soul. Seemingly primitive fears and certain religious prescriptions about representation, including being photographed, have come back to haunt contemporary humans, surrounded as we are by surveillance systems of all sorts. The best you can do is embrace, capture back, and carry out what some term surveillance. In the past half-decade, self-checkout machines were installed in many supermarkets, at first tentatively. It quickly became obvious that staff would still be needed to help customers, though it also felt as though customers were working in a factory, overlooked by these individuals, acting as forepersons, except with the former paying for the privilege. As well as dealing with the very old problem of machines taking our jobs, these new roles are far more complex for staff too. Thirdly, because we do not live in an ideal world, and petty theft is a factor, the assistants must play a security role as well. Fast forwarding to more recent times, and in the supermarket next to where I live in Brighton on the south coast of England, there are 21 machines, each with a security camera and its own tablet-sized screen. Staff continue to assist, direct, and watch customers. Not only that, there are more cameras on the ceiling above this bank of machines, and, on top of that, professional security guards linger in the area. The situation is beyond Orwellian. For convenience and for other reasons then, I have carried out many below-the-radar interventions in this particular branch of Sainsbury's and other retail outlets. As I say, we live in the minimally designed flats around it. In fact, it feels as though the households are extensions of the shelves and products of a sort. As if to confirm this, recently, because we are involved in residents' and tenants' actions about the numerous problems with these properties, estate management costs and rents, newly discovered construction faults, cladding risks and built-in obsolescence, we have discovered that Sainsbury's are the ultimate freeholders. So, the famous retail chain literally does own us to a degree. The image in the slide is one result from the work I have been doing. It is a simple arrangement of photographs, captured on my trusty old mobile device, of the monitoring screens on each of the 21 self-checkout machines mentioned, carried out in the build-up to Christmas 2019, just before the pandemic, when going to the shops was an innocent affair. Though institutional critique is not a primary interest of mine, the collage could be discussed in relation to art and photography history, formal considerations, the compositions, portraiture, direct address, in relation to repetition as insistence or repetition with difference, the technical qualities, resolutions, choice of camera, color, in particular orange, performance and live art. We could also talk about this as digital narcissism and the impossibility of escaping in today's world, not only the gaze of others, but our own creepy gaze. The past 2 years have seen a massive increase in this through use of Zoom, whose company slogan is, "We deliver happiness." Self-reflection is most often considered of value, but are there not also dangers? Anyway, the ethics connected with all this surveillance and self-valence are not too difficult to work out. It goes without saying that when you shop in such a place and are captured numerous times on camera, participant information sheets are not provided, and customers are not asked to sign release forms or consent forms. It seemed appropriate to appropriate Sainsbury's as a studio or playground for this and other activities, especially when you consider the family and company's art world connections in Britain, including the Sainsbury's wing of the National Gallery, the Sainsbury's Centre in Norwich, and Alex Sainsbury's involvement with spaces such as Raven Row and others in London. In fact, I sent Alex Sainsbury some materials from another set of actions, which involved using the self-checkout machines to buy nothing. That was possible initially, and the machines even provided receipts as proof of those 0 transactions, but he has not got back to me. Anyway, that was older work. In the past year, I have been commissioned by the Arts Council of Ireland to create new work using my typical approaches, for an exhibition which will open in September 2022, and may tour, and most likely there will be peripheral events and dissemination taking place beyond the institutional spaces. The relationship between landscape and technology interests me. During residences and periods in West Cork, I have been looking at the increasing and dramatic presence of wind turbines, existing networks such as the road system, transportation, as well as the giving over of space for the purposes of sport, for instance. For me, technology incorporates not only the much talked about software, code, algorithms and apps, nor the ubiquitous new devices and computational network, but also the older and heavier, perhaps mundane machineries, and not only that, but also analogous bureaucratic codes and systems. All these are linked to each other, but some are the subject of critical conversations, whilst others are ignored and taken for granted. One aspect of the new work I have been doing arises from the thought experiment, or entrepreneurial idea, if you like, that golf courses could be turned into wind farms. The suggestion is that the changes would not only fit with environmental imperatives, but would make the game more interesting. Already there are traditional obstacles such as rough and bunkers. Most courses will either have penalty areas, trees, bushes, or sometimes water, that present a challenge to the player. And let us not forget that in many countries there exists the sport of crazy golf. I have been posting this proposal on TripAdvisor sites for golf courses, golf links and resorts around the world, together with mock-up images, to give an artist's impression of what the new and improved game would look like. Sometimes these proposals are removed, and in other cases they stick. Human gatekeepers are clearly involved, and perhaps algorithmic policing is a factor too. Google Translate is useful for converting the text into the local language. Trump International Golf Course in Dubai wrote back to me in Arabic thanking me for my visit and inviting me to come again soon. I'd been clear that the visit was a virtual and not real one. I'd looked at images of the course online and through maps, but perhaps that counts nowadays. I found another resort in the Amazon rainforest, or in what was once part of the Amazon rainforest, and posted the TurboGolf proposal there successfully, in Portuguese. This is work in process, and as I say, just one aspect of the observations, interventions and interferences connected with technology in the landscape, in preparation for the exhibition at the West Cork Arts Centre, or ULAN, in 2022. Links, and please excuse that pun, could be made with 19th century romantic art concerns and notions of the picturesque. Garden, park, and golf course design employs methods such as prospect refuge theory which emerged then, and design principles such as savanna preference are relevant, as they were in the very successful children's TV series, Teletubbies. Perhaps golf is Teletubbies for adults, but I'd like to stress that in no way am I interested in mocking those who play the sport. The elitist connotations of golf may still be a factor, but women and working-class people made claims on the game long ago, and the situation is different now. I see no reason why wind turbines, one on every green perhaps, would not make golf a more stimulating experience.